Hey guys, today I am going to show you how to make a 1960s type poster, also known as a Fillmore type poster. So this poster was popular in the 1960s and 70s by people like Jimi Hendrix and The Doors and Jefferson Airplane, all of those bands that were popular back in the 60s. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is gather your images. Obviously, hopefully you have already done that. So I have one picture here of Jimi Hendrix, and what I'm going to do is separate him from the background. So I'm going to go ahead and use my quick selection tool to cut him out. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my quick selection tool and make my brush a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and click on him, and it made a nice selection. So try to get a picture that has a nice plain background of your subject. All right, it makes it a lot easier. And then what I'm going to do is do Control C and Control V. And this is going to cut him out of the background. I just have a little bit up here of his hair that I could probably come in and fix. So what I would do is, I did not use a layer mask. You can do a layer mask if you want to. I'm just going to go ahead and use my eraser tool to brush that off. All right, so there's my picture of Jimmy. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and go to make a new project. I've already done this, and I sized it 11 inches by 17 inches. Okay, I have a color palette picked out already, so I know the colors that I want to use, and I will share the color palette website that you can use to pick colors for your project, which would be really great for you to have on hand before you start. That way you know the colors that you want to use, and it'll also help you when you're laying out your ideas. All right, so the first color I picked is this blue. Okay, this is the hex code right here, and I'm going to hit OK. The next thing I'm going to do is add a custom shape. We have not talked about custom shapes and adding them in Photopea. So I'm going to kind of do this briefly. If this is the type of project you're going to do, then you will need to figure out the shapes that you want to use. And because some of your websites are blocked and you are unable to install or extract, zipped folders, you may need my help when installing custom shapes if this is the path you go to. So I know that I want the background to have this swirly layer effect, okay? So I know that I can use a shape to do that. So what I'm going to do is I did a Google search for free custom shapes, and I came up with this cool website that has a bunch of different free custom shapes, and I like this ornamental style. So what I'm going to do is I clicked on it, and it brought me to DeviantArt. DeviantArt is a great place that's created by artists who create all of this fun stuff, and most of it is free for you to download and use. I'm not sure if it's blocked on your computers or not. So hopefully it will not be blocked, and you will be able to click on it and download custom shapes on your own. When I downloaded this, it was not in a zipped file, so it automatically loaded the file here, just like this. It's this one, and it's ornaments underscore ahmad, and it's a big old long file name. All right, so it's unzipped. It's not in a folder. This would be a zipped folder. This was my font, but this one is cool, so I can use. I don't have a problem installing it in Photopea. All right, so once I downloaded it, now I'm going to go to Photopea and go to my custom shape tool, which is the last shape tool right here on my shape options. Then I'm going to come over here to shape. I'm going to click on this download arrow, and I'm going to go to load custom shapes, or load .csh. It'll bring me to my download folder, and I'm going to find that shape file. I'm going to hit open. And just like when we do fonts, it'll ask me if I want to load it next time I load Photopea, and I'm going to hit yes. And now my custom shapes should be there. So this custom shape file had quite a few files in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it had quite a few. So there's quite a few shapes here that I can use. So go back to Photopea. If I click on the custom shape box again and I scroll all the way down to the bottom, my shapes should be there, right? So they're all right here. So all I have to do is choose one that I want to use for my background. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go with this one. I don't even know what it looks like. So I'm going to hold the Shift key and the Alt key, and this is going to draw it out from the center. And then I'm going to click and drag. All right. And it's going to give me that cool, amazing shape. That is so awesome. I love it. All right. So this is the shape that I'm going to use. And if you notice, it gave me a shape layer. To change the color of the shape, you can come up here and you can enter a color if you'd like to change it. I'm going to go ahead and enter a color. I need to pull my hex code. So my color is EA1754. And I'm going to hit OK. And now I've got this crazy pink color. Okay, so what I want to do now is actually go to my layer style. And actually not my layer style, I'm sorry, my filter gallery, and I'm going to go to distort, and I'm going to go to twirl, and oops, I need to actually rasterize it. I'm going to go to filter, distort, twirl. All right, so this is going to allow me to twirl my effect, okay, and depending on the shape that you used is going to be dependent on what it looks like. Okay, so however crazy you want to go, it's up to you. So if I go to 0, it's going to take it, and then go down here, it'll go the opposite direction, right? So it's twirling that design. So we're just going to go with that. I'm going to hit OK. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is add a border to my poster. So what I'm going to do is use my rectangle tool, and then I'm going to go ahead and up here, I'm going to change the fill to no fill, change the stroke to white, and the point size, I'm not sure yet. We may need to adjust it. And then I'm going to adjust the corner radius to 300 pixels. This is going to give me a nice round corner. So what I want to do is just drag out and place it right about there. And I think I'm going to adjust, let's see if this is going to work, adjust my stroke. Oh, you know what? I need to change that to shape. So I'm going to redo that really quick. I'm going to delete, undo. All right, try that again. I'm going to go to a rectangle, make sure my stroke is on white, go to shape, click on shape. Let's see if this works. So I'm actually going to hold Shift and Alt and pull from the corners and see. Okay, let's not do that. Okay, I'm going to click and drag from the edge. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it so it's equal distance from the top and bottom. And I can always stretch this out if I need to. Control T, or I'm sorry, Control Alt T. And I'm going to drag it up here and down here. And now I have this border. I'm going to kind of go beyond, I think. And then I have to fill in these edges. So to fill in the edges, I'm going to use my pencil tool, which is right here. I'm going to click on, make it 100 pixels. And let's see, and then hopefully if I click here, layer is not editable. Okay, so what I'm going to do is rasterize and then paint in, it's going to paint in blue. Let's switch it to white. All right, so I'm going to paint it in white. You can also do this with your brush tool just to paint in these edges. And this gave me a nice round frame. Okay. Now I'm going to rename my layers before I go any further. So this one I'm going to name Twirl. And this one I'm going to name Frame. And then on my frame layer, I'm going to go ahead and go to the layer style, and I'm going to change the color of it a little bit. So I'm going to go to color overlay, and I'm going to change it to the color that's inside here. So that color, I'm going to click on the color picker, and I'm going to change this color to EA1754 and hit OK. All right, cool. So now it is the same color. Actually, I think I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit more. I feel like it needs to go. And this is a good thing because I made a shape. I can adjust like how big it is. All right, cool. So that looks good. All right, so actually I think I'm going to change the color of my frame. So let's go ahead and try something different. So I'm going to open that color picker or the effect layer up again, click on the color overlay, and click the color picker box. And I'm going to go ahead and change this color. So let's try this one and see what it looks like. All right, that looks better, I think. All right, cool. Okay, now I'm going to add a stroke around my frame. So I'm going to go back into my effects panel and go to stroke. Click on that box, click on the color picker box, and I'm going to make it the same color that's in here. So I can either click here and it'll pull it up, or I can type it in, which was this hex code here. So I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to change this to 7 pixels and make sure that the position is on the outside. That way I can kind of see it around. Hit OK. And now you can see I have a stroke and it kind of blends in a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to add a star shape here. So what I'm going to do is go to my shape tool, go to parametric shapes, select the star, and I'm going to add 99 sides. Okay, I know it seems crazy, but trust me. I'm going to change my radius to between 50 and 60, the inner radius. And then I'm going to click down here, make sure my stroke is white, and I'm going to make it about 45 pixels, not 450, 45 points. And I'm going to click and drag from down here. And I may actually need to change this. I may need to make my inner radius a little bit smaller. Yeah, so I'm going to undo that. So I'm going to change this to about 45 and let's see what happens. So this may take some messing around with the numbers a couple times. Well, that looks good. Okay, so now that I have my shape drawn out, I'm going to go ahead and click on my frame layer, and I'm going to hold the shift key and click on the thumbnail. Sorry, not the shift key, the control key, and click on the thumbnail. This is going to select the thumbnail. Then I'm going to go back to my shape tool and add a layer mask. So because I had my frame selected and I clicked back up here, I added a layer mask. So it layer masked the shape, the frame. So now I'm going to go ahead and open up my layer style, and I'm going to change the color overlay to, let's see, I'm going to change it to the background color, the blue. So I'm going to click on the color, and I'm going to click here and hit OK. And then hit OK again. All right, so now we're ready to add Jimmy to our poster. So I'm going to go back to my image and I'm going to click on this layer and I'm going to drag it over to my poster and let go. So you notice that it is too small. So I'm going to go ahead and place him right about here. I need to move his layer up to the very top of my layers panel. And I'm going to go Control, Alt, and T to transform. Hold the Shift key and pull from the corners and just resize him how I want. Let's go ahead and make him a little bit smaller. Let's go right about there. All right, perfect. So now what I'm going to do next is make a copy of this layer mask and place it here. So to do that, I'm going to click on the layer mask thumbnail, hold the Alt key, click and drag it up to his layer. Oops, that did not work how I wanted it to. Oh my goodness. Okay, so click on the layer mask and hold the Alt key and drag it up. All right, so now he's behind the layer mask. So what I need to do is change this from a black to a white. So with the layer mask selected, I'm going to go Control I, and that will inverse that layer mask. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the chain, and now I can move either one independently. So the link or the chain meant that they were connected and you couldn't move them separately. All right, so I'm going to actually make him a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and click on my thumbnail of him and I'm going to go Control Alt T again, hold the Shift key and drag up. And I need to make sure that I leave some room at the top for my text. So I'm going to go ahead and place him right about there. And then I'm going to make this a smart object. So I'm going to right click and go Convert to Smart Object. Now my layer is flattened. All right, now we're going to make him a different color. So what we're going to do is make sure our layer of Jimmy is selected. Let's rename this. And then we're going to go to Adjustment Layers. So it's this half circle. And I'm going to click on Gradient Map down here at the very bottom. And it's going to make everything black and white. So what I need to do is make a clipping mask so it's only affecting this layer. So I'm going to right click and hit Clipping Mask. Now I'm going to click in here and I'm going to change these colors. So this is a gradient. So gradient is, it goes from one color to another gradually, or multiple colors. This one we're just going to do two. So I'm going to click on this box right here. I'll double click and I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to make this one the color of my background, BDFF, hit OK. And then I'm going to change the, actually, let's make this one the pink color. And then hit OK. And then we're going to click on the white one on the right side and make it this orange color and hit OK. And now I've changed the color of my gradient and then I'll hit OK. Now I'm going to add a stroke around my subject. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the image layer and I'm going to go to the effects panel and click on stroke. I'm going to go ahead and change the color to the blue background color, and I'm going to change the size to 9. And also make sure that the position is on the outside. So I didn't need to change my fill color because this is the last color that I used when I did the other stroke around the border. Okay, but I do want it to have that same color. I'm going to hit OK. Oops. Hit OK. And then OK. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add some text. So I need to click on this gradient map layer, which is the top layer. And I am going to click on text. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my type tool. And I have already loaded or downloaded a font. I need to load it into my Photopea. So I'm going to go to Load Font, and I will provide this font for you in a Google Drive. It's called Bell Bottom Laser. So I'm going to go ahead and double click, and now it should be in my font options. So I'm going to type in Bell, and it's right here. Then I'm going to click right here and type out his name. I'm going to change the size. And change the color to white. And I'm going to move it over, and I think I want to spread it out a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and select it. And oops, I'm going to go to my character panel, and I'm going to change the tracking just a little. And now I have my font. We are going to, right about there, we are going to warp it in just a minute.
Swarm tool.
I'm going to convert it to a smart object. So I'm going to right click. Make sure you have all your spelling right, because once you do this, you can't go back and change it, okay? So make sure that everything's spelled correctly. So I'm going to click on convert to smart object. And then I'm going to go to my edit, transform, and warp. And now I can pull these handles. I need to zoom in because the handles are pretty small. So it's got all of these points around. Each point is movable. So what I'm going to do is click and drag and adjust the points to warp this text. So depending on the letters that you use, depending on, oops, this needs to actually go up. All right, depending on some factors of the size of your text, how many letters you have, things like that. So you can move these over. These points in here, you can also adjust up and down and side to side. So if you kind of wanted to warp it over, you could. Okay, so every point will move and do something different. So if 2 points are touching, it can be kind of tricky to get one of them to move and not the other, or get the right one to move. Okay, so when you have your text all warped how you want it, you can add a layer style to it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my effect panel, and I am going to go ahead and add a color overlay. So I want it to be the color of, let's see, let's do the blue or the yellow. Let's do the yellow. Hit OK, and then I'm going to add a stroke. So I want my stroke to be the same color as the blue, but I'm going to make it about 4 pixels. Hit OK. All right, so now I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to go ahead and create some more text. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, type the word experience, shift it over, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger this time. So I'm going to go back to my text tool and make it 150. And your size is going to depend on your project, but that's. And then before I convert it to a smart object, what I need to do is warp it. So I'm going to go Control Alt T, and I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. Actually, I need to unselect it. Control Alt T and stretch it. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is use my warp tool, go back to my text tool and select it, go to the warp tool, click on style and arc upper, and then hit OK. Then, oops, actually, I'm going to go back and redo that. I don't want to close it out first. I want to go to arc upper, and then I'm going to change this to minus 20%. And then it gave me that style that I wanted. And now I can convert it to a smart object. Right click and go convert to smart object. And now I can Control Alt T and right click and go to warp. And I'm just going to stretch it out to fit within this area, just like you did with the top or whatever other section. And again, yours is going to vary depending on how much text you have. So the key is you want to make sure that you're using the Fillmore style text, and I'm going to post some in a folder in Google Classroom so you guys have some options. All right, so I'm going to copy this layer style that I used right here. So I'm going to just right click. Actually, I'm going to right click right here and go layer style, copy, and then come back to this layer and right click and go layer style, paste. And I'm going to change the colors. So I'm going to change my stroke color, I think, to the pink. So I'm going to click on stroke, change the color, and click on the pink color. Maybe not. What if I flipped those? What if I did the outside, the yellow, and the color overlay, the pink? Ooh, no, let's try something else. All right, I think I'm actually going to keep it this way. So I'm going to change my stroke back to the blue. Oh, that came out of nowhere. All right, so I think I like that one. Every time I do that. Okay, hit okay, okay. All right, so now I'm going to add one more set of text down here, and I'm going to make it pretty small. So we're going to type out the location and the date. So fill, let's see. All right, so I'm going to type in Fillmore West, San Francisco. And I think I'm actually going to make this smaller when I'm done because I feel like it's way too big. Fillmore West, San Francisco, August 1st, 1968. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make this smaller. I just wanted to fit along the bottom. And I'm going to paste that layer style just like I did before. I'm not going to warp this one, so I don't need to change anything. So I'm just going to go, I don't need to make it a smart object. I'm just going to paste it. This one I am going to change the stroke color. I'm going to change the color overlay to pink. And the stroke color, I'm actually going to leave blue, but I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. All right, perfect. Okay, so the final thing that I want to do is add a paper texture so it looks like it's paper. So we're going to make all of it a smart object. So I'm going to click on my last one. So after this, I can't change anything. So make sure that all of your spelling is right. You can't change anything after we convert everything. So I'm going to select all of my layers, hold the shift key, and then I'm going to right click and go convert to smart object. This is going to flatten my entire image. And when it's done, it may take a second to actually convert it because it's thinking there's so many layers. All right, so now it's converted to a smart object. What I'm going to do is go to File, Open and Place. And I already have a paper texture that I want to use. So I'm going to locate it in my folder. So it's this one right here. And I don't need to hold shift or constrain the size because I'm just going to use it as an overlay. I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to change the blend mode. So I'm going to go ahead and go here. And I know that this section is usually the one that I use when I do blend modes for paper and things like that. So depending on the look that I want to go for is going to be dependent on the one that I use. I think I like the soft light the best. So if I hide that, this is before and this is after. It just gives it a really cool paper effect. All right, and that's it. I'm going to call this done. So I'm going to go ahead and save it, export it as a JPEG, and of course, hit save. I don't need to save the PSD because I've already flattened everything. I'm not going to change anything. That is it. All right. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with.